I'd like to request 25 RS 1633. And this is a bill that would just repeal a number of statutes that have sunset or expired.
Any questions? Any objection? We'll make the request.
Thank you.
Committee, Eddie has given us some handouts. Would you start with the transition one?
With the commuting one?
Commuting, yeah.
I believe it was 2 days ago or somewhat recently, Senator Schallenberger asked in committee a question that the earnings tax bill had brought to his mind about the commuters in and out of Kansas. This is data from the U.S. Census Bureau's American Community Survey 5-year estimates, and this is from the 2016 to 2020 window, which is the most recent data for which the commuter flow pattern data is available. As you can see at the bottom of that, the statewide totals reflect that there are 124,000 approximately non-residents commuting into Kansas for work and 106,000 Kansas residents commuting out of state for work. So the net outflow is about a positive 18,000 in terms of workers that reside out of Kansas but work in Kansas. You can see all of the county level information as well. Two things I do want to give you as caveats to this information is that especially on the county levels, the margin of error on this data is incredibly high. In most cases, it actually exceeds the amount for the counties. That's just because with a survey like this, getting down to that precise of a geography just can't be done with any high degree of precision. The other thing I do want to highlight is, as I mentioned, is that this is 5-year estimate data from the 2016 to 2020 timeframe. Obviously, that's pretty old data at this point, but the reality is that's just the most recently available. Obviously, the economy has had a lot of shifts since the 2016-2020 window in light of the pandemic and how that might have impacted work locations. So just want to highlight those two things for you. There is also on the very back page of this a map of the counties. Green represents positive inflow of workers. Red represents negative outflow of workers, and the size of the dot for the county is the magnitude for each of those counties.
Questions?
Stand for questions on that one, yeah.
Yeah, questions, committee? Eddie, I'm curious on Johnson County. Do they think that's approximately correct? About 10,000 people work there but do not live there?
Let me flip to, so it's actually, they believe that there are 73,000 people who work in Johnson County who do not live there. 62,000 though live in Johnson County and do not work there. And so the net is 11,000, between 11 and 12,000. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting.
And this is only Kansas residents. That this data also exists internally for county to county commuting that can be provided, but that's very noisy because it doesn't include any of the higher level state, bigger geography stuff. In some cases, it's borderline nonsensical because of the aggregate work the Census Bureau has to do to produce what's a very limited survey into those levels of precise geographies.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Eddie. Thank you for the work on this.
The next item is a printed off email. This is very similar to the one I provided yesterday related to possible amendments to Senate Bill 215. This just includes one additional set of data related to the utilization of Kansas adjusted gross income as the definition of income for the programs. The one thing I do want to highlight on that is that the SVR number labeled there, which is the tax-free style program, that number also includes the other provisions of the bill introduced. And so if KAGI were to be used for the income definition for that program, but the bill were to be otherwise amended, those numbers would be different. But for purposes of clarity, I thought it would be most helpful for you all to have that in the context of the bill that you are looking at. So that's the only thing I have on that.
Any questions on that one? I was trying to find the handout. So are the numbers, I guess I don't see where the difference is. I'm trying to track.
It's the table 1 at the top of that. That was not in what I provided yesterday.
Okay,
So
okay.
that's the piece for the KAGI as the income definition. You can see the SVR is actually somewhat similar to this bill, just a little bit of an increase. The big jump relative to not using KAGI as the definition is the Safe Senior Program. That's a program that is kind of all or nothing. Either you get the full amount of the benefit or you're not in the program, whereas the other two are more incremental in nature. And so that change in definition of income providing a heightened eligibility for Safe Senior is what causes the big, because since that's an on or off switch, not a sliding scale or a year-over-year increment. That's why that's the bigger impact.
Okay, and for the committee's review, would you go over if the differences between the three programs, or is that too much to ask right now? That might be.
Amelia might want to.
Okay, that'd be great.
As a reminder, the Safe Senior, which is in our income tax code as an income tax credit, the Safe Senior program refers to the household income definition that's found in the Homestead Act, which is a definition of income, but then it also adds in all of their Social Security benefits as kind of an addition to whatever that household income would be calculated under the Homestead Act. So that's a little bit different versus the Homestead refund and the Safe Senior, Homestead and the Senior and Disabled Veterans Property Tax Freeze. Homestead and property tax freeze, that is household income that currently includes half of the Social Security benefit. And so what this table, and Eddie can correct me if I'm wrong, is this table would reflect if those additions of 50% or 100% of Social Security were not included, but also that the definition of household income would essentially be Kansas adjusted gross income for those household members.
Okay, thank you. Committee, any questions? Seeing none. Committee, we're going to turn our attention to Senate Bill 73. I was planning on working 215 first, but I do want Senator Peck to be here for that bill. I know he's very interested in it. 73. So Amelia, thank you.
Madam Chair, as a reminder, Senate Bill number 73 relates to property tax and would modify deadlines for mailing property tax statements to taxpayers and certification of tax levies to the Director of Property Valuation, and also provide that the county clerk can use the previous year's budget when a taxing subdivision fails to file its budget on or before October 1st. Specifically, Section 1 of the bill would change the deadline for the county clerk to certify some information to the Director of Property Valuation from November 15th to November 1. The Section 2 would amend the mailing of the tax statements. That deadline for the county treasurer would be moved from December 15th to December 1. And the third section would amend provisions that would add the ability of the county clerk to use the previous year's budget information and amount of tax to be levied for taxing subdivisions that don't present or file their budget to the clerk on or before 5 p.m. on October 1st.
Okay, committee, any questions on this? Senator Schallenberger.
I think I do have a question. So if they can use last year's budget information, if the clerk hasn't certified, then Does that affect revenue neutral?
It does not, because they are collecting the same money as the previous year. It's the same budget.
Right, but, so if they haven't certified by then, they have to use last year's budget?
Yes, it's just an incentive to get the budgets into the clerk. I talked to the clerks and the treasurers and several different county officials on this to make sure that we weren't pushing one place and not the other. They said most of them have their budgets in before this date.
They do, but I know the city every now and then, if the county doesn't have the certified valuations in, then we'd be penalizing a city.
The counties,
They'd have to use last year's budget, even though they had already prepared a budget that's not last year's.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
No, they didn't think this was a problem, but I did not talk to any specific municipality on this. So, so what we're trying to do here, and Senator Blue brought this legislation to us. What happens is the notice is by law mailed by December 15th, and then you have to have your payment in by the 20th. So this would move up the law that it would be mailed December 1st and your payment would be due December 20th. And everyone I talked to said that most of them mail it before unless they run into some type of issue. And there have been a couple of counties that found they had problems. But I think this is a good change. It makes sense to make this change into law. Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I noted that we had testimony from one county clerk that was wanting to change the date in line 11 back to the 15th. They said it wouldn't affect the other dates from November 1st to the 15th.
Is that section 1? If that's section 1, we're going to delete it.
That is in section 1.
We're just going to delete that language. The clerks asked that we completely remove that. That's the section, isn't it, Amelia? We have a balloon amendment, Senator.
That would take care of my concern.
And mine too. And I think all the clerks. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if that was a motion, I would offer a second.
You can make the motion, Senator. Is there a second on it?
I'll make the motion and we adopt this amendment.
Is there a second on the motion? It's been moved by Senator Peterson, seconded by Senator Starnes. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We're back on the bill. Committee, I do have another amendment for this bill, and I think Senator Schallenberger will appreciate this amendment. Currently, if you stay revenue neutral, your budget is due earlier than if you don't stay revenue neutral. So my motion is that we move all budget due dates to October 1st. So that whether you're revenue neutral or not, that's the later of the two dates. So is there a second? It's been moved by Senator Tyson, seconded by Senator Peck. Discussion on the motion. Senator Ware.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And honestly, on most of what we're talking about, I can't help but look at this one sheet of testimony here from my county, Sedgwick County, and they're saying, gosh, no, this isn't going to be an easy thing. This is going to be a problem. So I have some concerns.
So the Sedgwick County Clerk is one of the individuals I spoke with. So I'm not sure who testified against it. But their major concern was Section 1, if it was clerks, which we just deleted. Okay. Any further discussion on the motion on moving the budget due dates? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next, committee, we're going to take a little bit of a deviation. Eddie handed out a revenue neutral sample letter. Eddie, would you mind going over that?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a document that that is provided for in statute, and the Department of Administration Division of Municipal Services is who provides the kind of working version of this to the local entities for use in their revenue neutral rate notifications. Last year, we passed legislation, I believe it was last year, or was it, that made some changes to the revenue neutral rate notice form. This is some pretty minor tweaks to update those changes. I'm going to go over those really quickly here. In the kind of middle section, which highlights the amount of tax at the revenue neutral rate and the proposed tax, the word maximum was replaced by proposed in this. So any place in that middle section where you have maximum, it now says proposed. And then the other thing is that there is a total tax at the bottom. Those are kind of conceptually, it's still really the same information that's going to go into those. This is just oriented towards clarifying for the recipient what they're actually the information they're actually being provided here. But in terms of what would go into this, it's my understanding the data itself would be the same. This would just be to hopefully avoid confusion that some recipients of this form have expressed.
Any questions?
Oh, the one other thing is that it previously those columns in the middle section only had a tax amount that was provided for them. This would add the tax rate in addition to the tax amount to each of those.
So committee, we did hear from several people that would like the rate added back. It was on the previous form and we had removed it. Excuse me. It's difficult because our intent when we started this was not to have this in legislation. But the initial notice went out and it used language such as ad valorem, not proposed property tax increase. So we needed to put it in legislation to make sure that we got a decent form. The handout that Amelia gave you includes all of the rate, the new fields on the rate. It does not include the total field. So I will make a motion to make the changes for what Amelia handed out, and we can deal with that. And then if the committee wants the totals on there, we can add that language to law. But otherwise, we thought we'd leave it at their discretion, but it's whatever the committee wants on that. So I move that we add the changes in the handout 1711 to the form, the revenue neutral letter that is sent. Is there a second? It's been moved by Senator Tyson, seconded by Senator Peck. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Do you want to leave the totals off, committee? Is that, okay, okay. There's no motion on it, so we'll move on. Committee, I'm going to make a motion, since we are making a change to the form. The state has paid for the form every year, postage and mailing, since inception of the program, and I'm going to propose that we pay for it for 2025 and 2026 again. Is there a second on the motion? It's been moved by Senator Tyson, seconded by Senator Schallenberger. Discussion on the motion. Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Approximately how much money is it to pay pay for these notices to go out. And I know it depends on how many of our local units of government and how many counties remain revenue neutral, but we should still have an estimate. I would act like that, please.
No, I think that's great, Senator, that you asked. Eddie, I'll ask for that information. What I found out, it was kind of interesting when I was talking to one county, they didn't turn in their postage and printing to the state. They paid it themselves. Eddie?
Yeah, has been between, I believe, 1.2 and 1.3 million dollars per year in the years the state has done this so far.
Thank you. Further questions or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye. All those opposed, nay? No. Well, would you like to be recorded?
Not this time.
Okay. Thank you, Senator. Motion carries. So, committee, I'm going to turn your attention to House Bill 2275. Nope, we're going to gut one of the House bills and pass it out. So, because time is short of the session and we have two similar bills, thank you. So you might as well pull out 2125 and 2275 at the same time. Amelia, do you mind going over both of the bills?
Certainly, Madam Chair. House Bill 2275 relates to sales and compensating use tax and would provide countywide retailer sales tax authority for Finney County. It would provide them the authority to submit a proposition to their electors to impose a countywide sales tax at the rate of 0.5% for purposes of financing the construction of a courthouse, jail, law enforcement center, or the remodeling or other county facility. And House Bill 2125 also relates to countywide retailer sales tax and would provide authority to Pawnee County to submit a proposition to its electors for a countywide sales tax in an amount up to 1% for purposes of healthcare services and furnishing and equipping county-supported public safety operations.
Any questions on those two bills? Seeing none, Senator Peck, do you want to make the motion?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. These pieces of legislation being very similar, just different counties, and in the interest of efficiency, I would make a motion that we take the contents of 2125 and put them into the contents of 2275. That way, rather than having two bills, we have one bill, and 2125 may be needed for other uses.
I'll second the motion. It's been moved by Senator Peck, seconded by Senator Tyson. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. You want to pass it out? Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would move that the Senate Assessment and Taxation Committee pass House Bill 2275 favorably as amended.
It's been moved and seconded, moved by Senator Peck, seconded by Senator Klemp. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. So we'll turn our attention back to 73 now. And since 2125 is available, I'll make the motion to move the contents of 73 as, well, first, strip the contents of 2125 and add the contents of 73 as amended to 2125 for Senate substitute. Is there a second on the motion? It's been moved and seconded, moved by Senator Tyson, seconded by Senator Peck. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. I'll make the motion to move it out favorably. 21 Senate substitute for 2125 as amended. It's been moved by Senator Tyson, seconded by Senator Peck. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, committee. We'll turn our attention now back to Senate Bill 215, since Senator Peck, I know you have a lot of interest in this bill, and appreciate your work for seniors and for veterans. Committee, do you want an overview on the bill? Let's go ahead, Amelia and Gibbon. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. I know, you're great. You're great.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, as a reminder, Senate Bill number 215 relates to the Homestead Property Tax Refund Act and would exclude Social Security payments from household income and increase the household income and appraised value thresholds for eligibility for those seniors and disabled veterans that qualify for increased property tax claims. Specifically, as you may recall, I think I went over earlier this week, the amendments would include excluding federal Social Security payments from the definition of household income for purposes of this property tax freeze provision. Increase the claimant's upper limit household income threshold to $80,000. It would continue the cost of living adjustment for that household income. It would increase the upper limit of appraised value for the claimant's homestead for the base year to $595,000, and it would add an annual adjustment to that upper limit appraised value threshold for base years commencing after 2025.
Senator Schellenberger.
Yeah, I have a question, maybe just one, so that I understand this. So a Social Security recipient will no longer consider Social Security as income for the purpose of the homestead exemption. So if your adjusted gross income after you've taken Social Security out is $80,000 or less, then and your home meets the valuation, then you qualify for this. Is that right?
Amelia?
Yes, that would be correct for this particular homestead refund program.
And I'm sorry, is this program in existence now and we're just expanding it?
Yes.
So right now it's $50,000.
Yes.
It's actually currently a little more than 50, I believe. Kathleen,
yeah,
the
because
department
it
might know
increases each
the
year.
exact number because there is an adjustment annually. It started at 50.
But this would be 80. Income except Social Security.
It would be your Kansas adjusted gross income. Is that, or we're going to amend it to that?
This particular bill does not change the definition of income that is in the Homestead Act, so the Homestead Refund Act. So it's currently provides that 50% of Social Security payments are added into the income calculation for purposes of this program. It doesn't change the it only changes it for purposes of this program, not the original homestead refund program.
So, Senator, one of the amendments we're looking at is to consider changing it to the Kansas adjusted gross income, and that simplifies the program.
We'll see what it looks like
Okay, okay. No, but I want you to understand, I want everybody to understand where we're at and what the possibilities are here. Okay. Okay. Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. On that discussion, I would like to see us put clarifying language or an amendment conceptually, I don't have a balloon, to make certain that we understand it is Kansas adjusted gross income. And so I would make that in the form of a motion, that idea.
Thank you, Senator. I'll second it. It's been, you want to second it? Okay. Okay, great. It's been moved by Senator Peck, seconded by Senator Tyson. Discussion, Senator Schallenberger.
I'm sorry, I'm new to
that's
this
great.
committee. I'm just trying, so Kansas adjusted gross income, it will start with federal. I'm assuming it starts with federal adjusted gross income. And then these, and maybe other reductions from it, make Kansas adjusted gross income, or are you starting with Kansas adjusted and then taking these off of it?
If I may, Kansas, I'll have Eddie answer that because we actually have a couple of things that you have to add back. So there's additions and subtractions to arrive at your Kansas adjusted
I'm just
gross.
wondering, when I go home and brag about this bill that Senator Corson introduced, I want to make sure I can tell people exactly what it does.
Okay, no, that's great. Eddie, do you want to address that?
Yeah, the program as it exists today has its own unique definition of income, and it is I'm trying to talk slowly and open it up as I say this, but it is the sum of the AGI. It's actually a relatively lengthy definition, but it's the income under the Income Tax Act, and then has a number of things added back to it. And my understanding is this would replace that income definition with just Kansas adjusted gross income to kind of simplify it. The main things that are added back to it are half of Social Security benefits, but then also certain maintenance support money, cash public assistance relief, certain pension and annuity payments, if they are otherwise not part of it, certain payments received under the Railroad Retirement Act, except for disability payments. I'm trying to look at this quickly as I say this, and I think that that's the bulk of it. There are a few kind of other items as well, but this would conceptually streamline the definition to Kansas adjusted gross income.
Any other questions? Senator Schallenberger. No, that's fine. And this is, just to be clear, the motion is only for the property tax freeze for seniors and disabled veterans. I know we had other data, but we're only dealing with this
I think I've
program.
got this, just let me make sure
Okay.
I've got it right. So currently, before this bill, half of your Social Security benefit is considered for the homestead at $50,000. If we pass this bill, all of your Social Security will come off, and your adjusted gross, or whatever it is, can be up to $80,000. Have I got that right? You get a double goodie here.
Amelia?
Well, I think based on the motion as I understood it was that the income for this property tax freeze for seniors and disabled and certain disabled veterans, the income would now be defined simply as Kansas adjusted gross income of those household members, which means, and currently, what tax year was it, 25, 24? That Social Security is no longer in Kansas adjusted gross income. So, but you are correct, the underlying bill still would increase the household income threshold to $80,000.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? Yes, Senator Corson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as I'm thinking through this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking that one of the advantages, some of the wisdom of making it Kansas adjusted gross income, which I appreciate improving the bill, is the way that this is actually realized is through your Kansas tax return, is the way that recipients utilize this. So it sort of makes sense that you're using the Kansas adjusted gross income that's on that return, and that's how you're going to access, for lack of a better word, the program. So that seems to make sense to me. Is that right, Madam Chair?
That's exactly the intent here. think Senator Peck is trying to make it, and we're trying to make it so that it's more understandable and easier for applicants. It's been somewhat confusing since implementation. And we'd like to clean up the other programs, but with the fiscal notes on here, I just don't think that's going to be feasible today unless somebody wants to take a look at that. But, so any other discussion on the motion, changing it to the Kansas adjusted gross income? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We're back on the bill. Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yesterday, we were provided with a document that was an email from Mr. Pinner, and it listed several. I'm looking at the very bottom of the document, committee. This is the one I'm referencing. It listed different household appraised amounts, different fiscal years as a base year. And so in looking at that and the fiscal notes that are associated with that document, the $595,000 appraised value seems to be a little bit excessive to me, and I would like to implement this base year a little quicker than the bill currently has. So I'm going to propose, Madam Chairman, again, based off of this document, that we change the appraised value, which you will see on page 2, line 4, from $595,000 to $450,000, which is still a $100,000 increase over what is current law, and establish the base year as last year, 2024. That way, when individuals take care of their property taxes at the end of this year, the program will be in place. At least that is my intention of the motion. So the base year would be 2024 rather than 2025, and the value of the home would be $450,000 versus $595,000, and you can see that brings the fiscal note down somewhat initially, well, and even long term. So I would make that in the form of a motion, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. I'll second the motion. So it's been moved by Senator Peck, seconded by Senator Tyson. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. We're back on the bill. Senator Peck. We gutted one. So the intent is to put this in, that's why we stripped the contents from one county to the other. Just second committee. My mistake, Senator. Amelia, will you give us an overview on 2231?
Madam Chair, House Bill number 2231 relates to individual income tax and would provide an additional Kansas exemption of $2,320 dollars for tax year 2024 and thereafter for those filing as head of household. And it would increase the additional Kansas exemption for certain disabled veterans from the current $2,250 to $2,320.
Okay, committee. So any questions on that bill? 2231. Okay, Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Before we pass out House Bill 2231, I really like 215, Senate Bill 215, and so I am going to make a motion that we take the contents of Senate Bill 215 as amended and put into House Bill 2231, keeping the original language in 2231.
I'll second the motion. Questions and discussion on the motion? So 2231 was the income tax exemption that Secretary Burkhart said that they've been doing for years. We're just codifying it in statute. Yeah, we're just codifying it in statute. So instead, we do not want to lose that language. So the good senator has put the contents of 215 as amended into 2231. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Oh, sorry. No. I think the good senator is more interested in getting the language passed. I guarantee that. Yeah. We've worked together long enough that this issue, we don't care who gets credit, we just want it across the line, and we'll give full credit when credit's. I still give Senator Holland credit for the phone call. It would have never happened without him. So, and many other senators, Senator Baumgardner, Peck, and others. So, Senator, do you want to make your motion?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would move that the Senate Assessment and Taxation Committee pass House Bill 2231 as amended and recommend it favorably.
It's been moved by Senator Peck, seconded by Senator Klemp. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Committee, we've got a couple more minutes here. I'm going to turn our attention. I have one amendment for Senate Bill 259, and then we'll finish working that bill Monday. We will not move it out today. So, actually, let's hold off on 259. What was the other? Let's turn our attention to Senate Bill 283, and we will work Senate Bill 259 on Monday. Committee, Monday is going to be very different than usual. Senator Starnes.
When you get to working 283, I have an amendment.
No, thank you. That's good to know. I don't think we'll be able to finish it. We're just going to start discussion on it today. So Amelia will give us an overview. In fact, we've only got a couple of minutes, so let's just hold off, guys. Let's not, it's gone really smooth today. Yeah. So, yes. So committee, just as a reminder, Monday we will meet. We have a hearing on 5011 and we have a hearing on 2396. I'm hoping that those go quickly so that we can work that legislation Monday. The goal is to kick it out Monday. And then Tuesday, we have a hearing on Senate Bill 39. And I know it's unusual. I usually hold them over, but that is our last day to meet. So we will be working that bill that day too, if the committee wishes. if the committee so desires, and we'll pick up 259 and 283 on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday also. So tomorrow, we are not having committee. Any other business to be brought before the committee? Seeing none, thank you for